Alright, let's start with this sensational video that has come up where the Islamic State has, of course, published a threatening video message purporting to have come from its leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. In the 18-minute-long video from the Furqan network, a bearded man with the appearance of Baghdadi can be heard saying that the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka were actually its response to the losses in its last territorial stronghold of Baghuz in Syria. The man can be heard saying that the ISIS will seek revenge for the jailed and killed members. The ISIS has also called for the militants operating in West Africa to multiply attacks against, quote-unquote, the crusading armies of the West. The authenticity and the date of the recording cannot be verified. The former US Vice President Joe Biden has officially kicked off his White House campaign. Biden has hosted a union event in Pittsburgh just hours after securing his first Labour endorsement. Joe Biden has told Teamsters that restoring a vibrant middle class will be the theme of his campaign. Joe Biden has told the crowd, and I quote him here, "The country wasn't built by the Wall Street bankers, CEOs and the hedge fund managers. It was built by you." Amongst those who introduced Biden was Harold Scheitberger, the president of the International Association of Firefighters. And also, the US Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has said that he is resigning from his post. Rod Rosenstein had been appointed the special counsel in place of Robert Mueller in May 2017 to investigate links between the Russian government and President Donald Trump's campaign. The Rosenstein's departure, effective from the 11th of May, was not a surprise. He was expected to step down in March, and Trump has already nominated Deputy Transportation Secretary Jeffrey Rosen to replace him. In a letter, Trump has written, Rosenstein has said that he is devoted to the values that make America great and that he always has put America first. A 23-year-old migrant died while traveling on top of a freight train in southern Mexico en route to the United States. The Salvadorian migrant Jose Elias Villavata reportedly died after suffering from a heart attack as a result of dehydration and a heat stroke. Now, Villalta had boarded the train that was known as the La Bestia, or the Beast, in Arriaga, and he was found unconscious in the city of Osaka in Mexico. During a train stop, paramedics at the scene then tried to resuscitate the man, but he did not respond. The migrants are reportedly seeking some alternative routes to the north into the United States, frustrated by efforts to slow their progress by the Mexican government. And hundreds gathered in California's Poway City in San Diego for a vigil honoring the victims of the synagogue shooting that took place on Saturday night. Now, the shooting at the synagogue had left one woman dead and several others injured. A 19-year-old San Diego resident has been arrested in connection with the shooting. The suspect is under investigation in connection with an unsolved mosque arson. Now, the 19-year-old had walked into the synagogue on Saturday morning, and the last day of the week-long Jewish holiday of Passover, and then had opened fire with an assault-style rifle. This incident has been described as a hate crime. The United Nations Security Council has observed a moment of silence for the victims of attacks in Burkina Faso and San Diego. In Burkina Faso, a Protestant church had been attacked by the armed gunmen on Sunday. The shooting had killed at least about 6 people. In San Diego, one woman was killed when a 19-year-old attacker had opened fire at a synagogue in the Poway city. In Honduras, thousands of people took to the streets of Tegucigalpa to protest against President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Protesters set up fiery blockades in roads in the capital, and according to reports, a number of buildings were also burned. Public schools were shut and workers walked off the jobs as a protest. The protesters also engaged in stone pelting. The riot police had to be deployed and authorities used tear gas against the protesters. The protests began amidst rumors that President Hernandez plans to privatize education and health. The families of the Canadians killed in the Ethiopian Airlines crash in the month of March have filed a lawsuit against Boeing in Chicago. The attorneys have filed the lawsuit on behalf of an Ontario family that lost 6 family members and a man from Hamilton who lost his wife and 3 young children. The wrongful death suit is one of the dozens of lawsuits that Boeing is facing over both crashes. The attorneys contend that Boeing had rushed the Air Max 8 to production prematurely in order to compete with rival Airbus and had sidestepped safety guidelines in order to reduce cost. Now, Manant Vaidya had lost 6 family members representing 3 generations of his family in the crash. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López paid a visit to a military base in the country's capital, which is slated to host a new controversial airport project. Andrés said that the construction of the project finally will start next week, but his remarks haven't gone down well with his critics, because just last December, Andrés had promised that the construction will begin in January, and the plan is a replacement for a partly built $13 billion project on the capital's eastern flank, which Andrés had earlier cancelled. The López Obrador's idea is to convert the base into a commercial airport and upgrade the capital's current hub as well as another in the nearby city of Toluca. The followers of the mystical Islamic Sufi tradition in Sudan carried out a march on Monday to join a sit-in outside of the Defense Ministry complex in Khartoum, where the protesters have kept up pressure over the Transitional Military Council since the 6th of April. The protesters were seen playing drums, dancing and singing on the streets outside the Defense Ministry as they waved large flags in a colourful march. Remember, the march comes as Sudan's military rulers and opposition alliance met to discuss the powers of a joint military-civilian council to steer the country's transition after 3 decades of rule by Omar al-Bashir. But Tripoli continues to be on the edge as the UN-backed government forces push back against Khalifa Haftar's army. At least about 4 people have been killed and 20 others wounded in air raids by Haftar's forces. The pro-government forces say that 7 victims were civilians. Libya has been plunged into chaos since rebel strongman Khalifa Haftar's forces launched an offensive to take over Tripoli on the 4th of April. Though so far, at least about 278 people have been killed in clashes and over 1,300 have been wounded, according to the World Health Organization. General Khalifa Haftar is widely believed to be backed by Egypt and the United Arab Emirates and thereby by the Americans. Several Greenpeace activists were seen climbing on board a sea drilling rig commissioned by Equinor in protest against the oil and gas drilling in the Norwegian Arctic region. The vessel was anchored off the Hammerfest, continental Europe's northernmost town, at the site of an Equinor liquefied natural gas plant. The activists were from Norway, Sweden and Denmark and carried signs saying "Stop drilling in the Arctic and ban new oil." The French government has begun to prepare for the reconstruction work on the fire-damaged Notre Dame Cathedral. Almost about 1,100 architects and heritage experts have been called in by the French President Emmanuel Macron to take the necessary steps to ensure adequate measures are taken. The France's government last week had also presented a bill aimed at speeding up the reconstruction of the Notre Dame that would allow the workers to skip some ordinary renovation procedures. President Emmanuel Macron has set a goal of rebuilding the cathedral in the next 5 years, which some experts consider as simply impossible to achieve. Military tanks and vehicles carrying missile launchers and weapons paraded through the streets of the Russian capital, Moscow. This comes as Russia is preparing to stage its annual Victory Day parade on the Red Square. The Muscovites and tourists saw the new T-14 Armata tanks, trucks with S-400 and RS-24 Yars thermonuclear missile systems. Russia will show off its military strength at a May 9 parade celebrating the 74th anniversary of the World War II victory over Nazi Germany. over 130 military vehicles, 13,000 military servicemen and 74 jets and helicopters are expected to take part in the event. Mozambique's far north braces for violent flooding after torrential rain continues to batter the country. The port city of Pemba remains the worst affected area. A total of 38 people have died after cyclone Kenneth hit the country last week. And this comes exactly 6 weeks after cyclone Idai left a trail of destruction across Mozambique. Currently, more than 23,000 people are without shelter and over 30,000 homes have been destroyed by the floods. The World Food Programme has started distributing food rations to those who are stranded. The drone video footage showed the aftermath of the severe flooding in Canada's Quebec town, with playgrounds, trees, streetlights and homes being seen submerged in floodwaters. Now, spring flooding has already impacted nearly about 5,500 homes in Quebec. More than 1,000 people have been evacuated so far, and one woman also died when her car was caught in a road washout caused by the rising waters. The Bollywood stars took out time from their busy schedules to vote in Mumbai as the fourth phase of the general elections took place in the city on the 29th of April. Celebrities including the likes of Amitabh Bachchan, Salman Khan, Kareena Kapoor Khan, Hema Malini, Hrithik Roshan were amongst others who reached the polling station to cast their vote. And also former Indian cricketer, the cricketing legend Sachin Tendulkar along with his family also came out to exercise their right to vote.